Hi, so Narcan is also referred to as naloxone, so I'll just refer to it as naloxone. So naloxone is a direct antagonist of mu opioid receptors. It cleans the brain's opioid receptors and reverses the respiratory depression, causing almost immediate withdrawal. So our first argument on the con side is that it gives users a false sense of security. So naloxone alone may be insufficient in some cases to revive the victim, and CPR, especially rescue breathing, may be also needed. A second dose of naloxone might be necessary. Complications following resuscitation from overdose may infrequently need in-hospital care. Mortality from injecting without anyone else present will be unaffected by take-home naloxone. Take-home naloxone should be studied in a rigorous scientific manner. Secondly, they cannot administer it to themselves. Most addicts cannot administer it because they're going to be knocked out anyway, so they're going to need a loved one because they generally lose consciousness when they overdose. And what about withdrawal effect? The dosage of take-home naloxone to be administered to a heroin overdose victim has somewhat become a difficult issue. A large dose will resuscitate the victim more reliably, but at the expense of causing more intensely unpleasant withdrawal symptoms, leading to possibly dangerous immediate use of more heroin. A less than effective dose will prolong the apnea, leading to further injury and possible death. Titration of the dose is most often recommended in a medical setting, but may be asking too much of lay people who will be under the stress and possibly intoxicated themselves.
All right, so there are multiple current methods of getting naloxone. If an addict overdoses, they can have emergency responders give it to them, or if they make it all the way to the hospital, they'll be given it at the hospital. You can also get a prescription for it, or the free method, which is the take-home that we're arguing currently. You go through an addiction support group. But if you go through this free method, there is a cost to the state. So, for example, the state of Massachusetts has spent about $800,000 issuing free naloxone, each dose costing the public health department about $16. So this gets into, should these dollars be spent giving away the free drug, or should it be used to get people into recovery and treatment? Also, adding on to a point that she made earlier, the false sense of security, the addicts may think that they can give themselves the drug when they are overdosing, but typically they lose consciousness. So they're going to have someone else administer it to them. Not everyone who overdoses is with other people, and not everyone knows that the addict has it or knows how to give it to them. And then furthermore, that leads into the dosing. You can, if they don't know how to give it, or if they don't have enough of it, they may not be able to get the addict out of the overdose, and they will continue to have the respiratory depression and all the other side effects. And if they give too high of a dose, it'll push them into withdrawal. And if they haven't sought medical attention at this point, they may self-treat their withdrawal with more drug.
Let me begin by saying that naloxone can help prevent death. We agree on that point. However, when an addict is at risk of overdosing and dying, and let's say a friend gives them Narcan, that doesn't mean that he learns a lesson. So there's no lessons learned, no repercussions, no consequences. All it does is let them live another day so they can get high one more time, maybe overdose, but now they have a safety net to keep doing, because there's a much less risk of death. So there's no real consequences. And the other part is that naloxone alone may be insufficient. Sometimes they need a second dose, which they may not have. Sometimes they get too much of a dose, all kinds of consequences. They may need CPR even. They can't do that by themselves if we just give it as a take-home product. And the thing is, all opiate users are at the risk of overdose, not only those that are coming to rehab. So our plan right now, or the proposed plan, is for the people that come to rehab, you give them a Narcan just in case they relapse. However, it is agreed that people that come to rehab, they want to quit. There's no point in saying that, well, in case you slip, here's something. There's no reason to give a backup method. Really, the people that should be getting Narcan are the people that are not coming to rehab, that are using the highest doses and therefore maybe at the highest risk of overdosing. And also, like Cheryl mentioned, the cost of supplying the drug users with Narcan is really high. It might be better actually to make the product for sale at a pharmacy, make it behind the counter. You don't need a script. This way, the people that are using the drugs can bear some of the costs, at least, of their own behaviors. This will also make it easier to track the areas in which the drug use is more prevalent, and also you can maybe get a chance to educate these people to track their progress and maybe get them to rehab. Make it also a place for counseling. Maybe talk to pharmacists, talk about side effects, and all that stuff. And the greatest thing about giving Narcan is that there's no guarantees of rehab once naloxone is used. Just because they're say one doesn't mean they're going to quit and get cured all of a sudden. In fact, because the risk of dying from overdose is now really low, it's even a greater incentive for them to keep continuing their abusive behavior. And as an analogy, you want to say that the way to reduce knife wounds and stabbing is to remove the knife, not run around the city with a lot of Band-Aids. And in that same way, the way to save drug addicts is with proper rehab therapy and education, not running around with a lot of Narcan. And that's our point.